What's up guys, Asian here again with another build video, and today we're going to be revisiting the old Werewolf one button meme build. So this kind of came about with Wolf Hunter, so this is still involving the Wolf Hunter DLC on the PTS, so right now we're in iteration 4.1.3, so we still have 2 more weeks left to go, so we still have 1 PTS cycle after this week, and then we have the live release, so there could still be changes to this set, to this particular build I should say. So the Werewolf 1 button meme build came to be with the release of Werewolf Wolf Hunter PTS Patch 4.1.0, where by using Relequen, Relequen, and a new medium armor set, Blood Moon, werewolves were able to pull basically around 55k, 58k fully buffed, so with raid buffs and everything, using just their light attacks. Now, ZOS has since nerfed Blood Moon, so it used to give you 50% additional light attack damage and 50% additional light attack speed. Now it still maintains 50% speed boost, it just increases light attack damage by 30% instead of 50%, and then Relequen was given a 1 second cooldown. So this doesn't affect normal stamina DPS builds because you're light attacking or heavy attacking with more than 1 second in between. But werewolves with the Blood Moon set can light attack more than once per second, so that's kind of why they kind of nerfed that there. But really, it wasn't that big of a nerf because once you hit 20 stacks with Relequen, doesn't really matter how fast you attack, you remain at 20 stacks. So that was kind of a small nerf, but not really a significant nerf at all. The bigger nerf came from the loss of 20% additional light attack damage from the Blood Moon set. So this is the build as it was on 4.1.0. So it was 2-piece Relequen, and then it was 5-piece Relequen, and then 5-piece Blood Moon with dagger sword. You can go dagger or dagger axe if you'd like. It's kind of up to you how you want to deal with that. With Nern on the main hand with a poison damage enchant, and then infuse offhand with a weapon damage enchant. Now this is a little bit different from the Nern Precise that we saw in normal stamina DPS builds, mainly because you don't have access to a back bar, so you won't necessarily be able to get that enchant off on the back bar instead. So we were sticking with Nern infused poison and weapon damage. So this is pretty much what you're currently running on live in terms of enchants and traits. And then we have 3 Bloodthirsty on our rings. All of them have weapon damage enchants. So this is still, one button, so we're only using light attacks, so we don't have to use any sort of abilities or anything like that. None of our werewolf abilities will be used, at least not for this dummy parse. However, I still want to go over what you would be putting on your bar if you were to use this, for example, in a trial. Now, a lot of these abilities are basically going to be useless for trials. So for example, Deafening Roar is pretty much useless because you can't fear the enemies and you already have the tank applying Major Fracture. Hircine's Bounty is probably one of the more useful ones because it is a self-heal, so it's kind of up to you whether you want to use Hircine's Rage or Fortitude. Fortitude is going to be better because they changed the unique weapon damage enchant, so that is to Major Brutality, so you get that from potions, so Fortitude is going to be better. Pounce is pretty pointless because you have to be at range in order to use it, so that's not a very good skill. And then Infectious Claws, it's if you want another heal, you can use Claws of Life, but that's kind of up to you. If you PvP a lot, you might want to do Claws of Anguish instead, so that's up to you. Generally speaking, though, using this ability is going to be an overall DPS loss compared to just straight up light attacking. So that's the other option. Now, Pounce, if you do want a little bit of additional cleave damage, because this is basically an all single target build, then you can do Brutal Pounce. You can go with Feral Pounce if you would like. It's up to you. Again, Pounce is not very useful for PvE. Even for PvP, it's not going to be all that good, except for maybe Brutal Pounce. And then, of course, if you are going to be using Piercing Howl Despair is the morph you want to go with, mainly for the Feeding Frenzy synergy. So that gives basically an unlimited, a basically 5-second duration and power buff, so all their light attack damage is increased by 40%. So if you have, for example, another werewolf and you use Howl of Despair, you can just kind of trade off using Howl of Despair. You can maintain Empowered. If you have 4 of them, because the buff lasts for 5 seconds and it's a 20-second cooldown on synergies, you could realistically have infinite Empowered with 4 werewolves in your trials team or your group. So that's one of the abilities that you do want to definitely have is Howl of Despair if you have more than one werewolf in the group, so that way you guys can feed off each other with your empowers. So enough about that. So let's go over the rotation. The rotation is just light attack. Just light attack, light attack, light attack. So we'll just go over kind of how much DPS you're able to pull. So basically, like I said, all you're doing is just light attacking. You don't have to do any other abilities. You know, in an actual trial, you might need to use the Howl or Claws of Life in order to get some additional heals off. In order to, you might be moving around, avoiding mechanics and things like that. You might be using that Howl move that I just talked about. I completely forgot what it's called now. But you might be using the Howl move to give your allies empower. So that really helps out, especially with the light attack buffs. Both magic DPS and werewolves will see a pretty sizable boost from empower. So that's another good option, build which you might end up using as well. So just something to keep in mind here. Basically all you're doing is drinking potions and light attacking the whole time. So you can see here down on the lower left hand corner of the screen next to the webcam that we're averaging around, you know, anywhere between, you know, high 39k to high 40k. So it is still a nerf compared to 4.1.0. This is about 5k or so lower, 5 to 6k lower than the 0.4. So when I first heard of this nerf, my guesstimate was anywhere between 40 and 45k is what we'd be sitting at, and it seems to be looking like it's about right. So we're sitting at about 41k right now. And we're not even at the point where Bloodthirst is going to start. So you could use Infuse on your Jewelry Rest instead of Bloodthirsty, so that way you have higher weapon damage throughout the entire parse, fight I should say, rather than just increase damage on the last 25% of the boss health. I personally prefer going with a mix of Infused and Bloodthirsty on my stem DPS, so like 2 Infused, 1 Bloodthirsty. It's a more balanced approach, but I'm just going with 3 Bloodthirsty right now, just so we can get this done. Alright, so there we go. So that is the 1-button Werewolf meme build. So you can see here we're still sitting really good DPS. We're sitting at 44.6k DPS. So compared to before the nerf, we were sitting at closer to 47, 48k without major fracture or anything like that. So this is still quite easily one of the better, most brainless builds out there. To give you some perspective, most stam DPS are running, the best stam DPS are able to pull about this. But that is with really, really good rotation and a lot of practice. So for this build to just be 1 button, light attacking, and pulling almost 45k self-buffed, so this is without Fracture, this is without Berserk, this is without Minor Force, because you can't use Trap, remember. So you have to get Minor Force from using Stalwart Guard. You know, someone else has to guard you, and Major Force and Warhorn and everything like that. And we're still pulling 45k. So this is still a very good build in terms of single target DPS. Now in terms of AoE damage, this is not great. You're basically light attacking, so you don't have any cleave at all. So one option that some people are thinking of who want to use something like this in a trial is you stick to your normal form, so your human form, for things where you need the AoE, so things like mostly trash pulls and things like that. But for boss fights, you might want to go into werewolf form instead, so that way you have a good single target DPS. And that might be an option for people who are not necessarily at the top level of stem DPS, who are not able to pull, you know, the 45k self-buffed on a dummy. And as you can see here, I do have Implosion, so I am a Stam Sork because you will proc Implosion on a Stam Sork with this build, so it gives you a little bit of extra DPS, almost at the 1k additional DPS. We don't have to be a Stam Sork if you don't want to, but generally speaking, Stam Sork is going to be the best option if you decide to go with this build. So that is it for this build video. Hope you guys found this informative, and I will still keep track of this, see if there's any more nerfs or changes coming up in the next PTS week and when it hits the live server. So do be on the lookout for that. I will most likely be revisiting this once it hits live, so we can see what it's actually able to pull. You know, if I can get a set of Blood Moon going, because I will need to have either Relequen, perfect Relequen weapons, or Blood Moon weapons. So one of the two will have to happen there. That's it for this video. Hope you guys found it informative. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And I will see you guys in the next dungeon.